arrived at Loveland Pass and we're heading out on a hike to Grizzly Peak. And it's surprisingly warm and calm at Loveland Pass. Usually it's really windy up here. Now that we've been out of the car for a few minutes, it is pretty chilly out here, and it'll be nice to have my hand warmers. These will come in handy because I know I'm going to have my hands bare sometimes to change out my pouches. And these hand warmers will keep things very toasty. The summit follows this ridgeline behind me over a couple of big humps, and then Grizzly Peak is in the distance. Just got really windy and it's freezing, and I have no idea how I'm going to swap out my pouch, but I'll think about that later. It's not full.
Yeah, it's really cold, super windy. The ridge is right back there and the wind is howling.
It's time to swap out my pouch, and it's so cold out here. The wind chill is pretty significant, so it's going to be challenging. I'm going to try to cower behind some rocks and just be quick about it. Whoa, it was cold.
Don't let them freeze. You won't feel it.
Yeah, it's true. Frostbite stoma. Have to be clean. And before I can handle this, I need to warm up my hands for a second. So they are going into my ovens. Pure bliss. Swapping out the pouch complete. That was tricky, there's so many layers. Oh, but I won't have to worry about it again for a while. We just made it up the most insanely windy slope. I thought I was going to get blown over. But we're on the summit and it's not nearly as windy up here, surprisingly. Wow, what a gorgeous day. Now I'm going to duck behind the shelter and have a snack. Oh, it's nice. It feels so good to be in the mountains again. It's been too long. last year at this time, I was sitting at home trying to recover and dealing with my stubborn abdominal incision. What a difference a year makes. It's time to swap out my pouch again. I put a closed-end pouch on at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I swapped one out on the trail around 10. And it's only 1 o'clock. I could probably go a little bit longer, but we're in a really sheltered spot here. And we actually passed by this place this morning, and I made a mental note of it, thinking that it would be a good spot with all this wind and the cold temperatures on the way out to swap out my pouch. So that's what I'm going to do. Even these closed-end ones chafe my leg a little bit, so I like to wear the pouch cover. Makes it much softer. That was much easier than the last one and all that wind. It's really nice right here. It's been a challenging hike. Lots of elevation gain and loss, cold temperatures and unrelenting winds that took a lot out of us. But it's also been a glorious day out here. It doesn't usually get this warm in December, and it felt really, really good to be back in the mountains. We are back at home and I'm thawing out with a cup of tea. The conditions today were very harsh. As you've seen from other videos, I have been backpacking in the snow before, but today the temperatures were particularly frigid and the wind chills were probably around 0 degrees. And so I learned a few things about dealing with my ostomy in such extreme conditions. On the high altitude ridge we were on today, there were very few sheltered spots from the wind to stop and swap out a pouch. So I really had to watch closely for those opportunities and make sure not to pass one up when it was available. Even when I was in those sheltered spots, it was still very cold, so I had to be fast and efficient with my changes and really try to minimize my skin exposure. One thing that helped with this was practicing swapping out closed-end pouches a lot at home so that when I am out in the elements, I can be a lot quicker. I have trouble swapping out my pouches with gloves on, so my fingers get very cold when they're exposed to the wind. One way I deal with this is by having the warmest mittens possible. I have mittens that are rated to be in the Himalaya, so they're very toasty, and in those I also put the hand warmers. So as soon as I'm done with the change, I can put my hands in my mittens and they're warm within a few seconds. As an ostomate, you do have more of a chance of exposing your fingers and your belly to the elements as you're changing out your pouches. So a really good thing to do is to make sure to wear warm clothes in general so that your core is always warm. That way you're not going into doing those activities already chilled, and you'll warm up a lot faster afterwards. Winter's an absolutely beautiful time to be outdoors, so don't be afraid to get out there in the cold weather with your ostomy.